Hi.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Okay. I'm good.
Long
ماشي
time.
الحال.
I haven't heard news in a while, so I see what you're doing, and I see you're doing a lot of things. So with these interviews, I usually do with people who work in the music industry from around the world. I start off by just asking if you can give a little bit of background about yourself, who you are, where you started, how you got into music, and so on.
Okay. So how the whole thing happened basically is when I was a kid, my mom sent me to the National Music Conservatory. She wanted me to play classical music. So I spent all my childhood learning how to play violin and to do classical music. Up until at some point, I was like, I'm done. You know, when I was old enough to have an opinion, I was like, I'm out of this. I don't want it. But later on, right after high school, I started working around in pubs. I started out as a waitress, and one thing led to the other. I was managing places, other people's places, ended up owning my own. And ever since the first place I managed, I think I was around 20 years old at the time. That was like back in 2003. I decided that I should add the music element. So that's how like music came back into my life, but in a completely different way. So started hosting bands. We started looking for bands because at the time there weren't many people in the scene in Jordan, like not many established bands. So we started hosting different people and having music nights and stuff like that. And that's how it all started. Ever since then, every single place I've hosted bands, eventually ended up opening Corners Pub, which has always been my dream, and I've had it for 8 years, is to have a live music venue. And it's just that. And we ended up hosting more than 400 shows on our stage. People from all around the world. We've hosted bands from everywhere, mostly from the region, but we did have international guests as well. And like a while back, I also started working in events. When I was way younger, I started working as a promoter, just tiptoeing around things. And then I got back into the bar scene and focused on live music inside venues more. But eventually, it was time. It was like, it's time to do something bigger. So we started doing festivals, and I started working with people like Shermeen, Sawalha, and we did some festivals and big events together. And it all falls into the same pool.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's how I ended up in the scene. We all kind of grew up together, like the musicians and the organizers and everyone like started, collecting each other, and somehow we have a scene now.
Yeah. I mean, I noticed many parallels between Beirut and Amman and in this front. Like it's not a big. Both aren't big places. Like it's not like we have millions and millions of people, but there's very like interesting music scenes in both places. And I know that you've had a very important role to play in that in Amman, and specifically with the Corners Pub. So let me know how did that start? Like how did you? It was 8 years ago. You're saying,
yeah.
How did that happen? Like how did it start? How was it easy to find a venue, to get permits, to bring in sound system and all that stuff? Like how was the process of owning your own place? It was your first place. I mean, you were working as a waitress, and then you suddenly owned your own place. So
it wasn't the first place I co-owned, but it was finally the first place I can say that was open to host live music. Like that was the main aim and the main theme of the place. When we opened this place, we found this location. One of my business partners, we had other pubs at the time, and he's like, look at this place. And it was the first time in my life that I walk into a space and I finally find I can actually put a stage and still be able to host people, because there was always a hole in the wall somewhere for me. All the previous bars were tiny. I think the biggest stage I had was like 1.5 meters before that. So I was able to build a stage. So when we started, we actually did not have a stage. I just have like a designated space. And it's so funny because I kept and then I did like a small riser, and it was 15 centimeters. And then eventually it kept growing. Every couple of years, I'll just raise it. And now it's done. Now it's proper, like a proper stage. And when it came to sound equipment, I still do that. Actually, I did not buy sound equipment because I found a really cool deal with a sound engineer. Right now, I'm working with Sari. Sari is awesome. He's a musician. He's a really cool sound engineer. He knows his stuff. So I have a nice deal with him, because if I just buy the equipment, put them on stage, then the quality of operating, I'm going to have to hire someone to operate the mixer.
Yeah.
So having him, like, he has his equipment and he comes in and he puts in his command 5 cents, and he knows exactly كيف يعطيني show, and he knows exactly the acoustics of the place.
Yeah.
So I found that quality of sound is way better sometimes than, saving up some money and maybe just buying a sound system and putting it there, because people think it's easy عشان it's a small space, because it's a small space, but actually it's way harder because we have so much echo coming from weird places.
Yeah.
So you need someone that knows what they're doing.
Absolutely.
So I did not invest in a sound system. I invested in, a good relationship with a good sound engineer instead.
Yeah, that's more valuable than having just a sound system. And
sure.
Now that when was the last event you hosted? Since have you hosted any events since the pandemic hit at any point, or have you not been able to?
I have actually did 3 shows in December, because it was our anniversary month.
Okay.
In 2020, we haven't done any shows. We did maybe in February and January, before the quarantine, before Corona and COVID-19.
Yeah.
And then we had complete lockdown for 3 whole months. So we had absolutely nothing. And then we reopened, and they kept opening us up and then closing us for 2 weeks and then opening again. Yeah. And the curfew was until 8 p.m. So it was almost impossible to host anything.
Yeah.
So now they just extended. So I used that in December, and we started some early shows at around 7 p.m. with really limited seating. So that was kind of hard, because you cannot sell tickets at the door. It's not enough you can only fit 40 people, with the social distancing rules. So it's just 40 people, and it wasn't easy to find sponsorship to do that. But everybody, I think, we're working together. So we had musicians, everybody's just cutting their prices. Sound engineer was also helping out, I'll take half of that. And we worked together, and somehow we managed to do 3 live shows this month.
Very cool.
In December, and we're going to have one at the end of the month. It's kind of hard. It's really hard, Anthony, to keep them going, because you're talking to people, you're like, how am I going to pay this artist?
Yeah.
How are you going to get the money? And you only have 40 people, and you cannot charge a lot, money at the door, or big numbers, because everyone is broke. Everyone was hit by it, not just musicians.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the same over here, especially with with the blast and with everything that we've also had, and on top of the virus. I wanted to see, so now it will soon be 1 year since this pandemic has hit. So obviously, I'm sure like me, like many others, you've had time to think and to reflect and to look back. And what have been the best memories you've had at the space, at the venue? If you had to name 1 or 2 concerts where you can say those were the best days for you.
Listen, the thing is, I really have so many moments I cannot pick. But there are certain people that came on stage, and I was blown away musically. It was more than I expected. When we had Labas last year, end of 2019, we had Labas, the Algerian musician. He came in and he was playing, and we were just standing there. It was amazing. We had other moments when we have some really cool entertainment bands from Beirut coming in, and the whole place would be super packed. I can't even imagine it. And you'd have 200 people just stacked up in the place, jumping around, and that's something also indescribable. Someone like me, just saw an empty space, and then you see everyone reacting. It's really cool, but I really cannot pick. Badia Abuhizi, when she came, she was unbelievable. We have so many different shows, even some local bands, when we used to have Al-Murabba perform live at Corners. That was also very special. Would have lines in the street, people would be lined up, and it's really cool, because when I started working in the scene, I couldn't imagine that would be a day that there's a Jordanian band with all this following, and then you go see them in a big concert and you see thousands of kids singing their songs, and it's actually really nice, because these guys, you used to see them performing in a tiny pub somewhere, just for fun.
And how has the Jordanian scene evolved since you started working in it? So 10, 15 years ago, it was probably very different to today, same as Beirut. I mean, Beirut has had different music scenes down the years, but how has it happened in Amman? How has it evolved, in your opinion?
I think it has evolved so much. It was all separate efforts all over the place. Of course, before that, we had people like Tariq and Nasser, who's a great composer, and we have a band, Rum, called Rum. And I think out of this band, a lot of musicians came out. Like I think Yazid Rusani used to play with them, Yaoub Abu Ghosh, also a composer used to play with them. So a lot of people came out of that, and small projects were happening here and there. But there was a couple of years, I think it was like around 10 years ago, when suddenly there was a big boom, like Autostrad, Murabba, and many bands, and suddenly there was lots of good content coming out of Jordan. And I think that's when everything started changing, and these bands started having a following, and something new happened. I think started happening. Like we'd go and actually see these bands, and you have thousands of people to show up. That was not an option before. That wasn't something that happened. So I think it started growing from there, and then they sort of set a sound, like they have a sound. So you find small, like younger bands in the region kind of trying to adopt certain sounds. And we started seeing that new bands are coming up in the scene. Some are trying to sound like Autostrad, and some are trying to sound like Murabba, and so and we had other things. Akhir Zafir made a comeback recently. Like they had a big hits, and then they left the scene for a while. Then they came back. So at some point we had like lots of content coming out of Amman, and of course Aziz Maraqa played a big role. He has following all around the region. You have people like Far'i and 47 Soul. So it seriously evolved from there, and it went from small little bands with tracks scattered all around to being known regionally. And I'm sure, Anthony, you see like the indie playlists all around different playlists, and you see a lot of Jordanian content, which I find really impressive, considering like we're super tiny and new in the music industry in general.
I mean, I'm always impressed by what's happening in Jordan, and I think you guys are doing a phenomenal job, all of you, whether it's the musicians or the promoters or the venues. Like, I think you guys have something very special happening there, and hopefully, once COVID is eradicated, it can come back. And speaking of many of the things that you do, there's something I'm very interested in, which is the Jordanian Female Artist Collective. I want to know why you started it, how you started it, and what's the objective of it.
Okay. Back in September of 2019, I was looking around the music scene, and I was noticing like, we have all these guys making music, and we didn't have many female artists. And like whomever I found, we had female singers, but they were basically, you find like this group of musicians, like the same drummer, bassist, and whomever, who just keep changing the lead singer and playing in different events, like cover bands, But I'm seeing that there's so many talented girls that are singing, but they're only doing covers, and they're kind of just playing in pubs and some in weddings and stuff like that. So I thought maybe if we try to, we need to have more presence in the scene. So I had this idea to bring everyone I know, all the female musicians and artists that I know. And I'm like, hey guys, how about we meet for a drink? And I remember it was a Saturday and daytime, and we all sat in a huge circle. And I told them my idea, and I genuinely did not expect more than 5 people to show up. But we ended up being like 23 to 24, women in this room sitting down, actually at corners. And I started telling them about this idea. How about we get together and we make music together, and we start producing original content, whether we want to, work together or even like solo projects. Let's just support each other and start this support network. And we started doing like jamming sessions and stuff like that, and it's great. So we did have some people that already were in the music scene, and people that are amazing musicians, and we had a lot of beginners, people that I found in my open mic night, like random people that I took their numbers and I kept them in mind, like really special vocals, and we ended up with a lot of new people in the scene. So that's when I'm like, okay, so now we have to add something to it. So now we're just about to start our master classes, kind of, because we found that a lot of these talents have missing information. Like they don't know how to say release. They don't know how to when they write a song, how to take it to a producer, how to take it to the studio.
Yeah.
So this is what we're working on right now. We have a series of master classes. We start with songwriting, and then Ableton are actually going to support us with production courses.
Very cool.
Yeah, so we have different things, and I think within 2 months we'll be done with all the master classes. Hopefully they've gained and learned a lot.
Yeah.
And then we go into the studio and start hopefully recording a 13 track album.
Nice.
And the whole idea is like each one of the members, the active members right now, gets to have her own first original track.
Yeah.
And I think from there, then they can take it, like they can go elsewhere. Then record labels can notice them. Maybe, never know when it goes to. But it's just that the first push and the first step to enter the music scene.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also a support network. It's really cool. So you end up with all these friends that are making music together, which is nice.
Yeah, especially because it's something I do. I talk about this a lot on almost all the interviews that I do, is because it is a very male dominated industry, whether it's people who work in it or whether it's the musicians, whether it's whatever. And it's I always say it's not my fight, but it's something I can be an ally for, and I should be an ally for. And I always say that it's more to do with people who work in the industry not giving the same opportunities to the same people who have the same qualifications. Basically, that's what it is. It's clear as daylight that there's so many women out there who are 100 times more capable than I am or than other guys are, but we're getting the benefit of it because we live in a patriarchal system. This is what it is. So I think what you're doing is really great, and I know that in Lebanon there's few people trying to change things, and hopefully it can continue, because it should. And another thing that you've done, which I was really impressed with, was LiveMusicJo during the first lockdown, the great lockdown.
Yes, the great lockdown.
Yeah. How was that for you? Like, because I did a similar thing on Beirut Jam Sessions, and I know how hard it was because I did it alone, and it was very, very tough. And I wanted to know, how was it for you guys, like the whole experience?
LiveMusicJo actually started exactly, like, seriously, it started 3 days, like we decided to do it 3 days before the big lockdown. There were just news and rumors of a lockdown.
Yeah.
And I remember I had this band coming in from Beirut. They were supposed to arrive on that day, and I had to cancel the tickets and everything because suddenly, like, okay, we're closing the airport. Shit. And then that's when we were like, okay, so if this is getting real, we have to do something.
Yeah.
So automatically I texted a lot of people, like organizers in the scene. I'm like, and actually most of them, like, they're all ladies, and I'm like, ladies, would you like to do this? Like, let's talk to the musicians. And then we started this WhatsApp group that we still have. Actually, it's really nice. We all share music on it, and then just broadcast it to everyone. Like, it had around 180 musicians. I'm like, guys, we want to do this. How about, like, there's going to be a lockdown, and let's do this. And everyone got really excited.
Yeah.
So we started the page, and we did not expect it to go viral that fast.
Yeah.
And we started, like, we talked about the idea. Within 4 days, we were online. One of our friends, Rafiq Nasruddin, he's a graphic designer, and he totally gave his time. Like, he was doing the flyers every day. He made the logo for us in like 2 days. It was crazy. And but it was a bunch of us, and we were working around 14 hours a day.
Yeah.
To get that, like, to happen. And we did 127 shows.
Yeah.
In 1 month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
It's crazy.
Because I did 160, but over 9 weeks. So in your case, it was more. So the ratio is like, and I know for a fact, because I was doing it, I know how hard it is. I know how difficult it was. And I don't know if you've seen a difference in the way artists perceive live gigs online versus, streaming gigs. Have you seen the way they've approached it from 1 year ago till now, since that lockdown? Or
it is so different. We just had I think last month there was a gig for El Far'i online.
Yeah.
And I think it was the first time where people were talking about it for months. They had a great campaign, and people were bought the tickets, and it was great because I I always had this idea in my head that there is no way on earth that people would buy online tickets to watch a show online, because you know, you have YouTube, you have all these different things where can you just go and watch the artist whenever you want. But I think that things are starting to change from the perspective of the crowd and the artists. I still don't know. To tell you the truth, I'm still confused.
I think
I'm still a bit confused about it. Like, I don't know, like everyone's like, this is the future, but then it scares me, because what do you mean this is the future? Where is that element, you know, where the interaction, the crowd, it's completely different experience.
I think it's gonna be like an alternative. Yeah, it's gonna be both, because I mean, even now I did 6 concerts now in December, but 20 to 30 people completely unplugged in places that were impacted by the blast. And I didn't I decided not to promote to not use social media to promote it. So I let the artists do the promotion, and then we film it and we name it Tiny Gigs, and we do stuff like that.
I saw that online. It's actually really nice.
Yeah, so we did 6 of them, and from that I'm going to do another 6 this month that are virtual, and it's also going to be ticketed, and all the money goes to the artist. So the artist chooses the price they want, and this is where I think it's fair, because the artist is kind of, they're the ones who decide. If they want to make it for $1, it's their call. You know, if they want to make it for 20, it's their call. Whatever they feel they're worth, it's their worth, it's their money. So I think it's a test. I mean, like everything, most of people in this region, like you or me or others, we're trying things. Like we don't know what's going to happen. So, you know, we have to try. I mean,
for sure.
You've also worked on other festivals. You worked on the Amman Jazz Festival and what the Hills. That's the name. What the Hills? What the
Hills is an event I produced with Shermeen.
Okay.
Sawalha.
Yeah.
She goes under the name Malahi in the scene, I think.
Yes.
And we've done other things together, like we got Nicholas Jar to Amman, and we had like different big gigs. Amman Jazz Festival. It has been going on for 9 years in Jordan. It's not my project, but I did work with them this year. I got to work with them because it was the first time we do it online. That was a really interesting experience, but it was all pre-recorded. So it was the first time where I had to actually work with a film crew, and that was new to me. You know, like now suddenly you're choosing the angles. I'm like, why am I like, that's not my job.
How did you find the experience of pre-recorded gigs versus live gigs, live streamed gigs?
I found that the live gigs were, it was nicer in a way, because you seriously saw your favorite artist, or like an artist you follow in their pajamas at home, like just playing music. So it was super intimate, and it was perfect for the time for that time, because everyone's just locked in and they were dying for something to do during the day, and that was special. But I feel like when things were open, it made more sense for it to be professionally recorded, and even like to take, you know, and to mix the audio tracks as well, and to sync it again, and to have good quality audio. Because it did not make sense anymore now that we're out and about to just release things. And it's also good for the festival to have all these videos on YouTube and something, you know, all the shows available. I think we lost most of the shows because a lot of people did not record.
This was something that happened with me as well. Lots of them didn't record, and
it took us a while to realize that we can actually do other things and record it ourselves. And it was a lot of tests and trials. And at some point we found this software. We thought we'll be able to put it on YouTube as well, because people were complaining that I want to watch it on my TV. So we did that. It worked. Like half show, it kept cutting, and it was really like we kept trying things.
I mean, this is what's going to happen.
But that's a beautiful thing, and no, people did not mind, and it was because it was all spontaneous, and it's a group effort, musicians and organizers. But now I think something like the Amman Jazz Festival and all these shows, I think people are looking for high quality sound. Like people want to hear good quality audio, so it's a completely different.
Okay, so you felt that people had a higher expectation on the Amman Jazz Festival. Okay,
they did.
Was it a ticket-based event or not?
No, it was free.
Okay.
It was free, and it was live streamed on YouTube. Like we streamed live on YouTube. That was also our first time stream. That was interesting. One of the shows actually also got stopped. Like things happen that you can't expect, and then they'll tell you, "Sorry, there's a glitch from YouTube." Like, how do you fix that?
Wow. I mean, I've never gone live on YouTube. I don't know if I want to yet, but for now it's not the case. And so seeing how things have evolved since 12 months till now, how do you imagine your role in the music scene over the next 12 months? Because we can't look beyond that. I mean, at least for 2021, what do you hope you can achieve for the music scene in Jordan and for yourself personally as well?
Listen, I'd like to seem like I know what I'm doing. I'm so scared of planning this year. I think I'm a bit traumatized because 2020, I had big ideas. Like we were going to do What the Hills for the second time, and we had like big ideas and big things going on. So, and then that happened, but we managed to come up with really cool things. 2021, I'm like, okay, I'm just trying to tiptoe around things. 2 days ago, they're like, events are gonna come back, but like with a limitation. And then you start hearing rumors. Some people like 20 people, some people are saying 50 people, some say 100. And I'm really not sure. I think what I'm going to do now is plan each month. And just to try to have as many musicians on my stage as I could. Hopefully try to find new acts. And definitely take JFAC. Like I want the Jordanian Female Artists Collective to go into the studio. That's my number one aim this year. And I feel like if we start releasing music and like having more content come out of Jordan. And as you know, like because these are female artists, so they're gonna give a completely different flavor, different style. So hopefully that's it so far. Like I want to go into the studio with our project. And also hopefully have more musicians on stage. As for big events, I am not going to plan anything. I'll go with the flow.
Let's see how it goes.
Let's see how it goes. No expectations this year.
Understandable. Another, just one question I'm very curious about, and I asked this to many people in the region. Do you think that singing in English and being from this region is a negative thing or a positive thing? How do you perceive it?
I think that each person should be able to communicate in the style and language that they want, regardless of where you're from, because it's music. At the end of the day, it's international. For sure, I love to see more Arabic content coming out, and music that people mostly relate to in our own language. But I feel if the artist, like some artists try to do this because they say like, it's better to have a couple of Arabic songs. But then you see the difference between their music and material when it comes to English and Arabic. And you'll see that you feel the real connection, that they're invested, they're really there when singing in English. But when they start singing in Arabic, you kind of feel like it's not their thing. But I feel like every artist should use whichever language they want. As long as it's the real, they're feeling it, it's the language that they relay music through, or like this is the sound they like. So, but we definitely need more Arabic content. I believe I'm looking for that. That's what I'm always looking for. Like when I'm looking for bookings, I'm looking for Arabic originals in the indie scene. I'm looking for lyrics that stand out. I'm looking for different remixes even of songs that we knew, different DJs and producers. As a booker, someone who's booking right now, that's what I'm looking for. As someone that listens to music, I would love to hear stuff that I like. Like I just checked out Bedouin Burger, the project for Zaid, Hamdan and Lynn Adib. I really love it. It's great. It's really very cool. So I'm always looking for stuff like that online. But I don't think that any artist should just go towards a certain language because this is what they're expected to do, unless it's their thing.
I agree. I mean, I think it's always very challenging for artists, and it's a big debate. It's a big debate when I have this, and a nice debate that I like speaking about, because there are no rules, there's no right or wrong. Some people are better in English, some are better in Arabic, but there's more success stories of artists who sing in Arabic who went out and grew, whereas when you sing in English, when you go out, you suddenly become a small fish in a huge pond, and it's something, it's a big
for sure.
It's a big debate, I think, that we should address more in the region. Like
I agree with you. And actually, I was a lot of the female artists we have this issue, like a lot of them, they're like, but I don't sing in Arabic. I'm like, okay, just do you. But I do know that whomever is able to produce originals in Arabic will get more attention.
Yeah.
And the thing is, even when we're dealing, let's say, when you're approached by festivals in Europe or Asia or Africa, wherever, people will be more interested in some, like, they want to hear something that's closer to our region. Like, they want to hear this, like, Levant sound. They want to hear this Arabic vibe in the music. And this is kind of what they're trying to book or to look for, rather than someone that sounds just like any artist they have back home. So that's also another thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And one final thing, since you've worked with many artists and you've mentioned the word content a lot, which I'm obviously a fan of, how would you advise artists to go about creating content today? Artists you work with or otherwise, because a lot of artists are very cautious about creating content because they think that it's not high quality and so on. And I'm very much a person who says that, you know, quality is subjective. So you can't really, you know, you can't say that whether it's good or bad. I mean, you could make the greatest video in the world and invest $10,000 in it, but it might not get any traction. So you might as well create something less good, which is again subjective, but put the money in promoting the video. So
yes,
I wanted to know what's your thought on the creation of content and quality versus quantity. How do you see that?
I think that, especially if it's a new artist, that quantity is definitely important at first, because nobody knows who you are. You're still, and you can't convince me that you're starting out and you already know what your sound's going to be. That's a really rare case. So you're still trying to find your sound. So you need to experiment with different things. And I think that you need to start putting things out there because you start testing the water.
Yeah.
Kind of like you see how people are reacting to different styles and to different things. And you'll be surprised. You could throw something that you think yourself is like, you know, kind of okay, and then it could become a hit.
Yeah.
Or the other way around. You would be invested in this track, as you said, and invest so much money in it and spend hours on end in the studio, and then put it out there and get zero attention.
Exactly.
Like you will never know. And the whole game is changing now. Like more artists are selling on TikTok than any other thing.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing is like some artists don't even use their music to speak for them anymore. It's more about their persona online, and things are changing. This is actually a very important debate, and I think that everyone is so confused, especially people like older, like who are older and who started working way before social media was a thing. So it's super confusing. It's like, when do you draw the line? When is this okay, and where, you know?
And I mean, I'm with you. I think artists have to try a lot. I'm more of a, not a fan, but I vouch more for quantity. Like, first put out as much as you can and then see what happens. And the thing I also believe, and I don't know if you agree, is that today, at least the past 12 months, maybe even more, is that music used to be consumed first with the ears, but today it's consumed first with the eyes. So people see it before they even hear it. And that, I think, has a big impact in the way they approach promoting themselves. Like that's why you're saying it's all about, you know, showing your body, showing yourself, showing your persona before even promoting your music. Because now, and I think they do it subconsciously, but I think it is a thing. And
sometimes it's the visuals, you know, sometimes you're just checking out playlists or anything and you see like this really interesting image and it kind of gives you a feeling like, oh, this song might be good. And you end up like listening to the track, liking it. You've never heard of the artist before. You're just discovering people every day.
Yeah.
But as you said, there's so much content out there. It's crazy.
It's crazy.
So definitely back to the Arabic thing. Yes, definitely Arabic content. It's a like less competition for sure.
Yeah.
It's a completely smaller pool. But when it comes to everything, like I'm overwhelmed. I don't even know who I listen to anymore. Someone asked me, it's like, who are you listening to like nowadays? Like which artists do you like? I'm like, you know what? I know I like this song and that song. I have absolutely no idea who sings them anymore. Because I end up driving around and just adding things to my playlist.
Yeah, and that's
without noticing who the artist is, you know. So it's becoming really interesting. So yeah, visuals are very important. And like everything from like the image is becoming more and more important.
Yeah.
And I feel it's just I don't know. Like, for sure, quality is important. Let's say you're a well-established artist. Of course, don't release just anything you see. You need to be very careful on how you're dealing with your crowd. But I feel like you should test the waters and you should try different styles and try, like, before you build your own fan base.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
feel like you should just throw things out there and see where you find yourself more.
Yeah, I agree with you. Well, that was it.
Anthony, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for this, and I really hope that we'll meet up soon, either in Beirut or in Amman, and
I really hope so.
Just discuss about music and life and nicer things.
Music and life and nicer things. I hope better days are coming to all of us in the region.
Yeah,
and hopefully I'll be in Beirut soon.
Yeah, come. It's fine. There's no more explosions. The biggest one went, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I'll keep in touch, and when I post this, I'll let you know. All right.
Great.
Thank you.
Great talk.
Bye. Bye.